And I'll join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
And keeping the palms joined. Palms down. All right, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. There's lots of kids downstairs right now, so I appreciate you all keeping it quiet so we don't disturb. The little ones who are downstairs, the 7-year-olds sitting in a deep meditative state can really be disturbed easily. So, yeah. I went down there already and I warned them all about the adults up here. So, oh yeah, you're good. Okay. I just saw a random kid, and I didn't know who the kid was attached to, so I wanted to make sure they knew where they were. But now that I saw you, yeah, much better up here than with those kids anyways, Anyone here for the first time that's over 10 years old? Yeah. Welcome. What brings you here?
My friend.
Yeah? Were you told where you were going or no? Yeah, nice. You never know. Sometimes people just, drag you here in crisis mode or something like that. But yeah, good. Glad you're here. Welcome. Anybody else? First time here? Yeah, welcome. What brings you here?
I've been practicing for some years and wanted to do it.
Yeah. So after all these years of practice, have you figured anything out yet?
I don't know.
Perfect. Good answer. I've been telling people that for a long time, Yeah. What else? First time, anybody? It's interesting. Somebody, this was late yesterday, and we were talking about various reasons people come here, and they had asked a question, and they said, I said very often, I think in kind of Western context with Buddhist teachings, especially for those who might be new to it, they come in almost as if they're looking for someone or something to kind of fix them, save them, heal them, correct them, or whatever term you want to put there. And so the person asked me, why do I think that is? And my ignorant perception is from a Western culture, for the most part, people grow up in this idea that there is someone or somebody or someplace or something that's going to fix you and heal you and save you and correct you and all that kind of stuff. And for a lot of people who end up into Buddhist practice, some of that might not resonate so much with them. Some it does, many it does actually, but for some it doesn't. But there's still this kind of preconceived idea that there's someone or something else that's going to fix them or save them or heal them. And then you come to Buddhist practice and you begin to realize that, one, the Buddha died 2,500 years ago and he cannot help you at all. Right. So if you're waiting for him to help you, you're going to be waiting a very long time. And two, all the teachings are really telling us is to reflect back on ourselves. And so for me, always the practice of the Buddhist teachings is holding up a mirror and looking back on what do I think, what do I say, and what do I do? And that in and of itself is what will, if I am looking for something to save me, fix me, heal me, correct me, change me, whatever it might be, there's only one person that's going to do that. And that is myself. And for some people, that's kind of scary because if you are someone who's been sad and angry and miserable and depressed for a very long time, who's the person that's made you sad and angry and miserable and depressed for a very long time? Yourself. So then that's the same person that you're looking towards to also find a sense of peace and joy and happiness and calm and, fulfillment in life. So it can be initially a little bit scary, but then ultimately you realize like, wow, that's really beautiful to know that I don't have to rely on anyone else, anything else, any place else for my happiness and joy. I can stop searching and looking for something or someone or someplace outside of me and realize that everything I have and everything I need to be perfectly at peace and happy is with me all the time. The question is, how do we wake up to that? How do we wake up to the reality that we have that ability, we have that power, we have that control over our heart and our mind if we practice? And so that's where the key comes in. Is it's one thing to read about it and to learn about it and to listen to it. And then it's another thing to, as we say, put it into practice. And that's where the Buddhist teachings really become incredibly applicable to just everyday life, dealing with the things that annoy you and bother you and trigger you and all the things that make you feel bad about yourself and everybody else. This is a mirror and an opportunity to look back on your heart and your mind and learn to be at peace with that. So good luck. Yeah. So we'll start with a meditation practice. For those who are joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. Thank you for showing up. Feel free to say hello in the chat box there. A couple things I'll tell you before we begin, especially for those who might be new. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice. Meaning, don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing this right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, just want to be comfortable. If you are on a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward, allows the back to straighten. If you're on a bench or chair, however you are seated, relaxing the shoulders if comfortable, hands around the knees or lap if comfortable. If you need to move, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator, just means you need to move. And again, for those who might be sitting for the first time, you're not going to empty your thoughts. You're not going to think nothing. You're not going to go blank. You will not stop your mind from racing. I will say things periodically to remind you that you're lost in thought and bring you back to present moment or wake you up because you have fallen asleep. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. We'll start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, feel them fall. Simply continue this practice observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, just sitting, breathing. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from the practice, just sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless where you come from or what you believe in and where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This is not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. It is direct perception into the present moment. And the present moment, as we know all too well, is filled with conflict, chaos, difficulties, challenges. This is life. This is what we get. This practice is learning to be with life as it arises and not trying to escape from it or run from it. Those who do that spend their whole lives running, and that'll get you tired. This practice is direct perception into the present moment. And very often people are not okay with the present moment, so they turn to something or someone to find a sense of peace and calm and stillness. This is about being with life as it arises. When the Buddha said life is filled with dukkha, suffering, discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction, he wasn't kidding. This is our day-to-day life filled with challenges. But it's also filled with moments of happiness and joy and beauty. The question is, what do you choose to focus on? And sadly, for most people, especially those that end up at places like this, they spend so much time focused on all the misery and not enough time focused on all the beauty. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do. The Buddha called this karma. Literally means actions, what we bring into the world with our thoughts, our words, and our actions. It's not what we get. It's not what goes around comes around. It's not others are going to get what they deserve. That is not karma. Karma is what you give. And so this practice, day in and day out, which never changes, is being mindful and aware of what we think, what we say, and what we do, and how our thoughts and our words and our actions impact our lives and the lives of those around us. And that just repeats day in and day out. To me, the Buddhist teachings are very simple and incredibly difficult to put into practice. But understanding them intellectually, philosophically, not that complicated. Think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds. That sums up 45 years of his teachings. And then you get to just practice that day in and day out. And when you struggle, you come back to present moment. Struggle, come back to present moment, and you keep practicing. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone outside of us, and we work on changing our mind and our reaction to the world around us, life gets simpler. And this does not mean you ignore what's happening around us. The world is a mess. The world's always been a mess. The world will always be a mess. But are you a mess? We don't have to be a mess while the world's a mess. And if we can take care of our mind, then we can engage in the world without hatred and anger and judgment, but from a place of love and kindness and compassion, and create change that you want to see. It's not sitting in a place of privilege and thinking everything is fine. It's not fine. It's a mess. But again, that doesn't mean you have to be a mess. No offense to the people in here who aren't a mess, of course. So with that, I'll pause. For me, I always prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. To those who are joining virtually, again, welcome. Thanks for being here. Feel free to say hello. There's a chat box on your screen. If you have any questions, feel free to put them on the chat box. I'll do my best to respond. So we'll open up to questions.
Question about compassion.
Mm.
Compassion means to suffer with someone, being with them when they're going through hard time, just being there for them. My tendency is to want to jump in and fix it and take it over, make suggestions. So how do I go from there to just being able to just be with the person and let them, because sometimes when I struggle, that's why I figure things out and let them be with, and just be with them instead of wanting to fix it.
So to paraphrase that for those who maybe didn't hear it virtually or anywhere, the first part of your question, which I'm glad I let you continue, but I wanted to stop you the way you introduced your question, because you said compassion is suffering with someone else. How is that compassion?
If someone is going a hard time, I can feel their pain. I can just be with the pain, on the pain, and instead of wanting to not feel with that.
I understand. So my question is, how is that suffering? Compassion is not suffering. Empathy is not suffering. The way you phrase the question, which maybe you just, that's why I would just want to get clarity on the way you ask the question. I mean, your questions are great. I've been listening to them for 2 years and they're wonderful and they continue to evolve, right? But the first thing you said was compassion is suffering. You can experience pain and suffering with other people. In other words, empathy and what you kind of added on to, after I said that, but that doesn't mean you have to suffer. I mean, that sounds very like, well, you're suffering, so I'm just going to suffer too. You're depressed, so I'm just going to be depressed also. I mean, how much does that work ever? No, right? So compassion is not suffering. I understand the second part of your question we'll get to, but to me, compassion is being able to love and care and be with people as they're suffering, which is your question, without attachment, without control, which is about the second part, really. What's interesting is your question is how to be with others when they're suffering and not trying to fix them. But I'm still stuck on the first part, which to me is you shifting your view of understanding compassion, which again is you don't have to suffer just because they're suffering. I mean, I'm not suffering because everyone in this room is suffering. No offense. Right? I'm suffering from my own madness and my own mess. Your suffering doesn't cause me suffering.
Right.
I feel for your suffering. I can share my understanding of Buddhist teachings with you to help you figure out your suffering. I can hope that when you go out these doors and continue your day, that you are free from suffering. But if I take on your suffering, I mean, that's kind of arrogant and egotistical to think that like your suffering is mine. It's a lot of power and control, which ties into your second piece of your question, which is you want to fix everyone because you think you have power or control over them. Their suffering is their suffering. I wish nobody suffers. Not the case. Everybody suffers. I mean, it's the first thing the Buddha said. So does it make sense so far? Yeah. So to your question about how do you work with their suffering and not try to fix it and control it, stop trying to fix it and control it. It's not yours. If you don't take it on, it's not yours. But we get this kind of, and I get it, it's coming from a good place. So, I'm not, Well, maybe I am. I was going to say, I'm not trying to be so harsh on you, but actually I am. But, for people who may be hearing for this for the first time, I understand you're coming from a very loving, compassionate place, but you're also coming from a place that says, I'm going to make your suffering mine and I'm going to fix it. Their suffering is their suffering. Share what you can. That is the practice of non-attachment, to have empathy, love, and care, but not try to control them or fix them. And when they need you, you're there for them. I learned 30 years ago working in group homes with adolescents who've been abused. My mentor at the time, she said to me, Jeff, when you show up to work with these kids, they'd all been through tremendous trauma. She said, when you show up with these kids, love them, care for them while you're here. And when you leave, don't bring them with you. Could you imagine carrying around the pain and suffering of everybody in the world right now? That's a lot. Your suffering that you're experiencing is enough. Take care of that. And then you can show up for people and love them and care about them and listen to them and support them, but not yours to fix. Yeah, please. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine that part of where that comes from is, I'm pretty sure that term is the Latin, which means to suffer with compassion. So I do see some of the logic in that. But I also just wonder if maybe it's because we don't really get instructed on how to be with our own suffering. And so we also don't really know how to be there for the suffering of others.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what your thoughts are about what it means to be with your own suffering.
Yeah, no, beautiful. What was that first part? The Latin? I lost you when you said Latin.
Passion is just Latin for to suffer with. Passion of the Christ is suffering.
Huh. So Latin, compassion is to suffer with, is the Latin. Wow. Thank you. I never knew that. Did everybody else know that except me? Let me rephrase that. Did anyone in here know that? Right? Except you? That's great. So to your second part about our inability to learn to be with our own suffering and have compassion for ourselves, and possibly that's the reason we have trouble with for others. Absolutely. I think that, first and foremost, one of the and it gets a little confusing in Buddhism, especially for those who might be new to it, and they read this thing about non-self, right? So they think, well, non-self, so there's no self, so who's suffering? Well, Dogen, the Zen master, said you must get to know the self before you can get rid of the self. So part of getting to know that self absolutely is becoming aware of our own suffering. What is causing my anger, my greed, my ignorance? What is causing my sadness, my depression, my stress, my anxiety? What is causing that? And then realizing first that the only thing that's causing that is my mind and heart's reaction to an external situation. The second piece of that is understanding what role I play in that. And then to me, the third piece, which is addressing really what you're bringing up, which is, can I then send love and compassion towards myself so I don't hate myself? Because if I hate myself, then how am I going to treat people, right? And very often it comes up a lot in here where people talk about, they share examples of how they talk to themselves harsher than they would ever speak to somebody else. The things we often tell ourselves in our own head are worse than things we would say to others. And we can say some pretty bad things to others, right? So I think that love and compassion, self-love, self-compassion is absolutely critical. And it is also, I believe, without getting into kind of Western psychology therapy, definitely this avoidance where people are like, well, I'm just going to go save and fix everybody else because I don't really want to sit with my own mess. And that can get really dangerous because, if we're a bit shattered, we need to learn. We don't need to do anything. I suggest we learn to sit with that. And yes, I agree. At least my understanding of Buddhist teachings is if we have love and compassion for ourselves, then when we bring that into the world, we're bringing love and compassion, not hatred and anger. For me, I grew up with so much hatred and anger and was always towards myself. So I hated myself. So it was just easy to hate other people. And it was almost impossible to truly love somebody else because there was no love for myself. Once that shifted, then I was able to actually genuinely have love, but without the attachment. Love you to death, but sorry, folks, you're on your own. I'll serve you tea, but good luck with your mess. So yeah, thank you. What else? Yeah. Oh, go ahead. You two can fight it out.
I was just curious if you could speak about Tonglen.
Tonglen. Yeah. I would not be the one best to speak about Tonglen practice. I know, Thursday nights we started again a Tonglen practice. And so Michael specifically has been leading that. But this idea of Tonglen and this kind of sending and receiving of love and compassion is really a beautiful practice. I think it's similar to what I'd say. I'm not a Tonglen practitioner, so I don't know that I would be the best. But what I can say about it is I still think this idea of, if I'm going to send love and compassion towards somebody else, yet I don't have the ability to have love and compassion for myself, then it's kind of that, if your cup is empty, you got nothing to pour, right? And so if we don't, the kind of, again, another example is the oxygen mask, right? If we don't, on an airplane oxygen mask, it tells you to put it on yourself first and then the child. So if we don't have love and compassion for ourselves, it's going to be really hard to send it. So I think that's, for me, as far as Tonglen, without being really a practitioner of it, that's anyone else who practices Tonglen that wants to comment on that? Yeah, please.
I practice Tonglen most days. The problem I find with it is a sense of magical thinking, that I'm really going to be somehow sending this and healing people.
Yeah.
But I try to deal with it. I think it's a lovely practice,
Mm-hmm.
and it helps me feel compassion for the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Like, you're not even certain it works, and yet you still practice it,
Well, shouldn't say how would I know it worked.
Right.
I guess if my neighbor were dying and I was doing Tonglen, well, for them to live, of course, that's not the greatest motive either. All you can do is ask for spiritual progress for people, not things or states, and I can't save him from death.
Yeah.
But I could dwell on his spiritual well-being in the terrible time that he's going through.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Anyone else on Tonglen want to comment on that? Otherwise, every other Thursday at 7:00, ask Michael. Yeah. He'll do it for a whole hour with you, and he's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Pema Children
Yeah.
is a great practitioner of Tonglen.
Yes.
She probably has a lot of things. Well, I've read her. She does have a lot
Yeah.
of things to say.
Pema Children, Tara Brock, I mean, they're beautiful practitioners and really share the kind of core fundamental teachings of Tonglen practice. Yeah, definitely. It's similar to, like, at the very end, we do the transfer of merit. And often people, it's like, well, they're talking about non-self and and then you transfer merit. Like, what is all that about? And actually, similar, Carol, like, how do you know? I mean, it's my lineage and tradition of Buddhism. I was taught at the very end, you transfer merit. So may all beings be at peace, may all be free from suffering. And I eventually, like, early on, I was like, is this word? And it just became a thing that to me, it seemed very beautiful to just send that love and compassion and that idea of all beings being free from suffering. And I think for me, it helped to kind of just like, does it work? I don't know. But I like to believe that somehow my actions and my ideas and my energy and my thoughts are permeating elsewhere beyond just this physical form, Yeah.
Well, it helps you spiritually to sharpen your sense of attention.
Yeah, for sure.
Towards life, towards people.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps me. I know that.
Yeah.
Wednesday night with the meditation as well, we begin loving kindness towards the self.
Yes.
So we bring the loving kindness towards people we might be in conflict with and then to the world.
Yep.
So I'd say similar thought that you begin with the self and move outwards.
Definitely. Yeah. Jordan, were you going to comment on that? And then we'll.
Yes, I'm only a little bit familiar with Tonglen. I've practiced it a few times. And also, I have a tradition of practicing spreading metta and giving out our what we're being, our merit. But I view it more of like a perspective kind of thing. Oftentimes when we do something good, we feel good about ourselves, and it starts to build on our ego. But after every time you practice, the first thing you do is consider other people and think about how you can help them, and think about how you're practicing for them. Not only are you destroying the idea of your ego, but you're also changing your perspective of other people. So that when you go out into the world and you get angry at somebody for doing something, you remember that you want them to be happy. You want them to be peaceful. You want them to be healthy.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
I was just curious, if, back to the self-love, if you are critical your whole life and struggle with self-love, how do you put that into practice and then know when you can go out then and help others?
Meaning, are you looking for like the moment that, I just want to expand on your question so I understand it. Are you asking, like, are you looking for the moment that one would say identify with and say, okay, now I'm ready to go do it? Yeah, you're ready now. That's when you know, right? It makes your question makes sense based on everything I just said. Now I want you to completely ignore everything I just said about, you must have love and compassion for yourself before you can go out and do it for others. The flip side to that, or another way to look at that, is, to me, and this is what I was taught, 2003, first Buddhist nuns, teacher, master said to me, go help people. That was literally it. And when we help people, to me, this is the practice of non-self, because as you know, when you help people, how do you feel? Good, right? It's not about whom. It's not about you anymore. It's about someone else. So the practice of non-self, in a similar way, is coming out of that. I need to feed my ego, my pride, myself, me. We're kind of taking that away, and we're just going out and helping people. And when we help people and we feel good, if you feel good, how would that then in turn impact how you potentially feel towards yourself? Make you feel better. And then when you feel better, that might inspire you to go do more good. And then you feel more better. And then that will inspire you to feel even more gooder, right? And so it's this constant vicious cycle of doing good and feeling better. But yes, if you're sitting around waiting for that moment to say, like, okay, am I ready yet to go? If you're asking yourself that question, then today, like literally when we're done here in 10 minutes, you need to go help somebody immediately, right? I think it's important for us all to understand that, we all in this room have done things that help people. And when we do things that help people, we know it feels good. All of us in this room have also done things that harmed people. And when we harm people, it doesn't feel so good, right? And so it's really just a moment-to-moment, day-to-day practice of, and this is the Buddhist teachings on dana, generosity, is to just give your time, your effort, your attention, your heart, whatever you can give to help people. They're literally, you can walk outside and help people right now. You can go outside and help people. I guarantee there's people within half a mile from here that need help. But are we looking for that? And if you look for it, you'll find it. You really will. And when you're looking for and helping others, what are you not focused on? Yourself. And when you sit around all day long, focus on yourself, how does that make you feel? Most people not so good, or they don't end up here on a Saturday at 11 o'clock. We're good. So there's a question here. Couple comments. On Think Good Thoughts, we can't control the thoughts that come into our mind. Should we try to think in a good way? So I think, Cinda, this idea we can't control the thoughts that come into our mind, I wouldn't necessarily personally agree. My understanding of Buddhist teachings, karma, ultimately the law of cause and effect, I understand this idea, especially I know myself and many Buddhist folks will share that, like, thoughts just come and go, and they seem to, come out of thin air and just arise, and then practice of letting them pass, like clouds or airplanes. So I understand this idea. And I know I often talk about this idea of, my thoughts have been miserable forever. And so the problem for me is not so much changing the thoughts, but not acting on them, meaning the thoughts and then the words, then the action. So if the thoughts are miserable, don't speak on them and then don't act on them, right? So for me as a practitioner, I in a way, and I mean this very loosely, like gave up on thinking like someday in this life, my thoughts are just going to magically change and become perfectly perfect and pure. For me, the practice has been, can I stop speaking or acting on them? But with that being said, I also think it's important, this idea, I don't necessarily agree with the fact that we can't control our thoughts. We absolutely impact our thoughts. Yes, I could sit here as a practitioner and say that I don't know where my thoughts are coming from, but that's not true. My thoughts are coming from my repetitive behaviors and actions. And so if I'm truly just focusing on positive intention, kind actions, kind words, then I'm going to cultivate, these what we call karmic seeds of positive thoughts. So if all of my actions and all of my words are kind and gentle and positive, there's a better chance that the thoughts are going to be that way as well. So even though I often say personally, I'm not trying to change my thoughts so much, I do think we have an impact, absolutely, on how we think. If you just think of, if you're watching miserable social media for 5 hours a day, I mean, what do you think your thoughts are going to be focused on? Misery. But if you watch beautiful sunsets or ocean waves or cute little cartoons or whatever you're watching for 5 hours changes, then your thoughts will change. So I don't, like I said, I don't want you to surrender this idea that you can't impact what you think, because you really can. What else? Questions? Yeah.
How do you balance having boundaries with being selfless? Like,
Yeah.
without giving too much?
Yeah. So the question of how do you balance boundaries with selflessness and giving too much? So it's a very common question around Buddhist practice, and I think it's important first and foremost to say that there's nothing in Buddhist teachings, especially for those who might be brand new to this stuff. There's nothing new in Buddhist teachings that say just allow people to treat you like crap and walk all over you and be a doormat, so to speak. Like, no, right? There's no compassion or wisdom in allowing people to treat you poorly. So if you're in a dangerous, toxic, unhealthy situation, physically, mentally, emotionally, then remove yourself from that situation. There's no Buddhist teaching that says allow you to be treated like, what, right? So I want to get that out of the way first, because often people think like, oh, I'm just supposed to be selfless and have compassion for all beings and stand here and get punched. No. The heart of Buddhist teachings is wisdom and compassion. The wisest thing is to remove yourself from a harmful situation. The most compassionate thing you can do is remove yourself from a harmful situation. Because if you remove yourself from a harmful situation, not only are you protecting yourself, you're also stopping somebody else from causing you harm, which is a very wise and compassionate thing to do. So that's one extreme, which I always like to start with. The second side to that is on things that might not be so, dealing with kind of, abuse, domestic violence, things like that, day-to-day things that are a lot like less serious than that, where you're just kind of annoyed, traffic, right? Your latte's made the wrong way, your food wasn't prepared properly. Those types of things that we tend to get wrapped up on, I want it my way. And this boundary of everybody must satisfy me. So I think it's watching the extremes of that and finding a balance to where, I know my first teacher, the monastery master Xingyun, somebody asked him, do you ever feel like people take advantage of you? And his response with a smile was, yes, all the time. But it didn't bother him. Now, we're not there, right? I don't have the cultivation of that spiritual practice, that depth of wisdom and compassion. But at the same time, and again, he really wasn't speaking about abuse or trauma or things like that, just day-to-day stuff of people always wanting things from him. And he says, then he went on to say, that's why I'm here. I'm here to be of service to all sentient beings, all time, all space, and all directions. I add the with safety part, even though, I think that was implied. So the question then to you is, at what point in time, when people are, in your opinion, crossing your boundaries, is it safe and healthy for you physically, mentally, and emotionally? And at what point in time is it too far and you need to remove yourself? And nobody can answer that for you. There's no read, Buddhist Sutra, page 17, that's going to tell you that answer. That's for you to explore. And yes, the Buddhist teachings on patience is critical. But if we're being patient for years and years and years and we're continuously being treated like crap, then maybe it's time to move on. Yeah. What else? So do one more before we close. Yeah.
In these times, what are the thoughts on self-defense versus nonviolence versus violence protecting others.
Self-defense, nonviolence, and violence to protect others. Yeah, I mean, I think those are three really separate situations. I think that, my view has changed over the years on these, and it initially started when one of my dear friends 20 years ago, she was is a veteran Buddhist, Japanese Zen priest, American woman, and I started doing work with active and combat vets active folks coming back from combat and veterans with PTSD and TBI, traumatic brain injuries. And this was about 13 years ago when I was working with this population. And I was with them every week for like 6 years at Naval Medical Center Balboa, Point Loma Naval Base, 32nd Street, substance abuse groups as well, and the combat folks. And I remember doing meditation with the group. This was it was called Oasis, which was the Navy's first residential treatment program for active military with PTSD and TBI. And to sum this up, one of the guys shared after meditation that he was a sniper. And when I taught him the meditation practice, we were talking afterwards. He said that what he learned in sniper school is the expression BRASS: breathe, relax, aim, squeeze, shoot. And so the meditation reminded him of this. And I walked out of there thinking to myself, I just made that guy a better sniper, right? And potentially, I mean, it's very arrogant of me to think that I made him a better sniper. But the general idea was I was giving him tools to stay calm and relaxed, which he then would transfer into his life when he got cleared by med boards, went back to being a sniper. So I called Dr. Paul Sargent. He's a retired now, but Navy psychiatrist who built this program. I was working with him. And I said, Paul, I think I just made this guy a better sniper, loosely, of course. And he said, how do you feel about that? I still remember walking at the Point Loma Naval Base. And I kind of paused for a few seconds. And I thought to myself, he's a sniper now. He's not always going to be a sniper. He's a human. He has a family. He has a wife. He has kids. He's trying to stay healthy, clean, sober, not abuse them. His job is a sniper. And so I'd ask myself as a Buddhist, and for someone who's worked now for 20 years really within a military population, am I comfortable with that? Absolutely. They have a job to do. They're doing their job. Not my place. There's a lot of Buddhists I know that refuse to work with military population because the Buddhist teachings around non-harming, right? One of the precepts. And everybody has their own perspectives on that. My view is each individual suffers, and whatever they choose to do, that's their choice. That's their individual path. And I'm at peace sharing the practice of compassion and wisdom with everybody. I'm not in a place where I'm going to judge people for what they do or how they choose to protect people or places or things. I find it very often, not even just this situation, where often I give the example of, when I first got into Buddhism and then like 6 weeks later, I was judging everybody else for the same stuff I was doing 6 weeks ago, And last thing I'll say on this is, I think, well, I'm not going to go in that direction, but I think we, yeah, I mean, well, I'll tell you this story before we close. So there's probably familiar with the Jataka tales. For those who don't know, Jataka tales are kind of like Aesop's fables, and they're stories about the Buddha's past lives. And the one where he was a child, and they came across a mother bear, and the cubs were starving to death because the mother bear was so malnourished. And so the little child said, sent the other friends they were with, said, go get help so we can, help the mother bear. And friends went and got help. And while the friends ran away, this child fed himself to the mother bear, so she had enough nourishment to feed her cubs. The story in the Jataka tales is that that was Siddhartha's prior life. The next life, the rebirth, was as Siddhartha Gautama, who became the Buddha. So in that life, he surrendered his life, born as a bodhisattva, became the Buddha. And here we are 2,500 years later, still talking about what this dude taught, right? Always the intention behind the action when it comes, for me, behind any Buddhist teachings, any actions is the intention. You know, I like keeping people safe. I also like non-harming. You know, we plant our own path, and we wake up to our own karmic seeds every single day. So I will caution people with, again, this is not your question at all, but I will caution the judgment that occurs a lot, that people will throw around onto others for anything they choose to do. Almost as if like, well, we've never done anything wrong, but how dare they go harm people, you know? So I'm going to close on that light note. We'll join palms. Many merit gained from this practice be transferred into all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. All right, before you all head out, who's doing the announcements? Juan's doing the announcements. Our Dharma Bum host, Juan, is doing the announcements. Come on up, Juan. It's like a game show. And as he's coming up, Tiffany, can you raise your hand? So everybody turn around. That's Tiffany. Once a month, which is the third Sunday of the month, we do a temple cleaning for the next hour. So anyone who wants to stay for an hour or 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 40 minutes, please find Tiffany. She'll be right there and or downstairs and help clean the temple. And to those parents who showed up, yay, parents, thank you for showing up. I'm pretty sure your kids are safe downstairs.
Hello, everyone. I'm today's host, Juan. We opened the Dharma Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night, we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food distribution program is every Thursday at 4:30. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow and then bring it back whenever you are done with it. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and hope to see you again. Thank you.
Thanks, Juan.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.